Hello, everybody. I'm Debbie Hayes, and thank you for joining us at the World of Pets podcast. Today, we're going to do something quite different. I was going to say a little different, but really quite different that we'll hop into in a minute. And we have David Wolfram here as our co-host, and he'll be doing some of the moderating tonight. And then we have Anthony Dunham, and he and I are working on a project that I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. And then Scott Tilley, who is one of the founders of TRAC, which is a therapeutic ranch here in Tucson. So what you're going to be treated to tonight is a planning session for a program called Project DieHard. The purpose of Project DieHard is to give support to veterans overall, but especially to veterans who have emotional problems and might have a tendency toward suicide. So Brian Gibson is the founder of Project DieHard. He actually had a gun in his mouth and was going to end it for himself. And God spoke to him, and the two of them spared his life. And he came up with this program where right now it's one-fold as far as totally operational, but two-fold as far as the planning. The planning part is actually housing. They were gifted a 20-acre parcel of land on the southern tip of Illinois. And so the idea is to be able to house 2 veterans with their families, and it's either 6 or 8 other individuals that are veterans in that facility. So any financial help that you could give them, that would be great. The thing that they're doing on an ongoing basis and have been doing for about a year is a breakfast. And the breakfast, the veterans' breakfast is paid for. And they actually do it in Paducah, Kentucky. That's how I know that the 2 places are close together. And the veterans come, and they obviously have a place once a month to have fellowship with other veterans and express concerns. I have not been to one of the breakfasts, but that's what I believe is the goal. So I knew that Brian wanted to have a facility in every state. And I thought, I'm not really one that's going to be able to do the hardcore stuff, I'm going to call it, the actual looking for land, looking for financing for that, trying to get a facility actually built. But a breakfast, I can handle that. I feel like that's in my pay grade. So I was fortunate because I was talking to Anthony about it, and he is a disabled veteran, and he is all on board to help as well. So if we could get everybody in here, then we could start some conversation about what this would take. So Anthony, do you want to take? Anthony and I had a Zoom this morning with the fella who is the chaplain for that facility, the Illinois Kentucky facility, I call it. So Anthony, could you give us a little bit of an update, and David can jump in when he has questions and things for us to clarify?
So it's pretty cut and dry, what you said, Debbie. I'm actually on their website, just scrolling through as we speak. And what they call it is, they call it the Fellowship Breakfast, Come Break Bread with Heroes Veterans Eat Free. So they're what they do in Paducah, Kentucky is that I guess they've partnered with an IHOP, and they ask for donations from local business leaders in the community and um, maybe other nonprofits, and they put all that money toward the breakfast so that the veterans that come can eat free. They have anywhere recently from 15 to 20 that come to their breakfast there in Paducah. It's something that we'd like to get started out here in Tucson, as Deborah was saying. Um, I am a combat veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. And so this kind of stuff is very near and dear to my heart. My 10-year goal is to open an equine assisted therapy ranch that focuses on veterans, but we'll work with more than just veterans. But our main focus will be veterans. So when Deborah talked about this, it was right up my lane, and I was willing to help. Near as I can tell, we were all in agreement this morning on the Zoom call that at some point Debbie and I will probably be going out there to observe one of these breakfasts from an operational standpoint. So when we try to get this thing up and running in Tucson, we've at least seen two things. Number one, that this organization really exists and that the donations are going where they say they're going. And number two, that we know exactly what the expectations are and the standard operating procedures are.
Yes. One thing that Brian is strict about is that the breakfasts are planned for the first Wednesday of the month. And if you recall, a weekend, 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, January 1st was Wednesday. Well, they had their breakfast because he wants it to be consistent. And I totally agree with him 100% that if somebody, especially if somebody's having some emotional problems and they're looking for that stability, that consistency with when they're going to be able to get that support is really important.
Yes.
So I just happened to think, just an aside, Anthony, I know you're planning on opening your facility, I believe you said in Missouri, but meeting Scott fortuitous also, because I'm sure that he can give you some guidance.
Yeah,
That
maybe.
would be
And I'm
helpful.
not just looking Missouri. My cousin happens to live in Rolla, Missouri. I'm looking anywhere kind of in that area where you can rotationally graze for the vast majority of the year, and you only have to supplemental feed 2 to 3 to maybe 4 months max out of the year to keep costs down for the horses.
Yeah, very good. Okay, David, did you have any questions that come to mind?
No, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think definitely seeing how the operation goes start to finish is a really good idea too. So you're not just trying to wing it. And, maybe they can reach out to an IHOP near you to facilitate that and make that connection a lot easier for you to gain, saying, hey, we're doing it out here. You want to help out over there, kind of thing. I think that's a really good idea.
Well, the fellow that we met with this morning, the chaplain, he had told me when I talked to him over the weekend that his wife has a connection to IHOP corporate. So he is going to be in charge as they open up locations throughout the United States of contacting. So we don't have to do that ourselves.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, the facility in Paducah and the physical facility in Illinois are looking for financial donations. If anybody is feeling that that this, hopefully everybody feels that this is a worthwhile venture, but those would be appreciated. And of course, we will be reaching out to some of the influencers and other people in Tucson to
One of the things you were talking about you're talking about the essentialness of this, and I could not agree with you more. One of the things that was discussed between David and I this morning, who are both combat veterans, The only really thing against him is he was a Marine. Other than that, he's a pretty good guy. Um, but one of the things that we discussed was, as human beings, we are not created to see most of what we see when it comes to combat situations, the type of death, the way that people die, the some of the fundamentalist Muslim groups that will literally beat people to death right in front of you. Those type of things. We're not conditioned. We're not created. We're not made. We're not wired to see those things. I've never met a veteran that was in an active combat zone that didn't come back with at least, at minimum, a mild case of PTSD. And we've all heard the stats, 22 a day. I've heard it's more than that now, that it's actually increased from 22 veterans a day taking their own life to somewhere around 40. I was listening to Pete Hegseth's stuff today on Newsmax as he was being questioned by the Senate committee that should confirm him. And just hearing him talk about his heart for the veterans and how, it's so important that we have a Department of Defense that will work with the VA to stand behind our veterans. And the more organizations like Project DieHard that we can get, I feel like the more work we're doing to rescue the ones that put their necks on the line for us.
I agree, and thank you for your service. So, Scott, now that you've heard a little bit more about what we're doing, I just think that animal therapy, whether it's horses or dogs or some other type of animal, is really important. Having that bond, um, even though it's not an individual, the animals do talk back, and sometimes, and a lot of times nicely, sometimes a little stubbornly. But what are you thinking after hearing what we had to say?
Who are you talking to? I'm sorry.
I'm talking to Scott.
Oh,
He might have muted himself.
Are you muted, Scott? You are muted. You're still muted.
his connection may be bad.
There we go.
That's me.
What? No, he doesn't have the mute sign on anymore. Can you hear us, Scott? Okay, let's go ahead and well, he might have gotten home and he's going inside or something too. So so David, you want to
There he is.
Oh, there he is. All right. Let me I was just asking David something quickly and then we'll come back to you, Scott, okay?
Okay.
So David, what is your feeling about animals and animals' connections with people?
Utterly imperative. I can't believe my parents wouldn't let me have one growing up. And, especially after all I've been through with all three of my dogs were dachshunds, and, just love the personality of the dog, the breed specifically. And but I love all animals. I get along with them real well. I think they're good for comforting and somebody to talk to when nobody else will listen. So,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing. I think that anybody with any kind of stress or anything like that, super, super helpful just to have a companion that's always there, that's always going to be loyal to you. I think very important.
Yes. Emily, can you pop Scott back in because we lost him for a minute. Yeah, I agree with you totally. They're just, yeah, it's hard to see him. It's hard to see him get older. That is for sure. And I know that Anthony has a dog that is being trained to be a service dog for him. And these service dogs can do so much, both for veterans and for regular civilians. Boy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we lost Scott.
I know. Well, he's down here in the waiting room. There he is.
Hey,
Okay, we better
can
get
you
your
guys hear me
opinion
now?
quick, right?
Can you hear me now?
5
Yes.
by 5.
Loud and clear.
Great. All right. Well, I guess I would like maybe, maybe some clarification on what are you trying to do this here in Tucson? Yes. So, I'm a part of the Tucson Lions Club, the Breakfast Club. We actually meet tomorrow morning. And we did a breakfast for the veterans and homeless veterans where we all got we got gift bags together, and we went to like I guess it's like a men's shelter to deliver all these gifts, and had a breakfast for everyone there. So if you'd like to tag along with me to breakfast, if you want to come tomorrow, it's at the Hungry Fox at 7 a.m. And I can certainly put you in touch with the right people who've already done this type of breakfast. The Lions Club is a nonprofit, so they actually help a lot of other nonprofits. It may be a source of support for you guys as well.
Yes, that's true. I know Anthony has his children this week, and I have something already in the morning, so tomorrow would not work. But I think that is a good idea to make some connections. The reason that Brian wants the breakfast, and you might have been when you were cut out, I was saying that it's always the first Wednesday of the month. And January 1st was no different. Yeah. And he always wants it because they have this contact with IHOP. They always want it to be at an IHOP so that no matter where in the nation it is, once, if we have something in every single state, that a veteran will know that someplace in that state on the first Wednesday of the month, there will be an IHOP that they can go to. So,
I like it.
Yeah, I know that, and that was the same thing Anthony said right away was churches can make the breakfast. That's, really cut back on the costs, and it's true. But that stability for people that are having emotional problems is, I think he feels is really important, and I agree with that. I think we all agree with that.
Scott, if there's one of those breakfasts for networking coming up that's not on a week I have the kids, I'd be more than willing to tag along with you. I don't know if you heard us discuss that at some point. Debbie and I are probably going to be going out to Paducah just to see their operational standpoint from an SOP standpoint. So when we get something going here, there's that consistency and continuity.
Yeah, for sure. That Wednesday morning meeting is every Wednesday. They do have one board meeting a month, which is kind of it's closed just to the board members. But the rest of the time it's open for guests. So we can share our contacts at the end, and you can just like I said, if you want to tag along with me to one of those. They've already done, veterans breakfast. We've, like I said, we serve them all gifts and stuff for homeless veterans at this men's shelter, which was, pretty powerful too. But I understand the concept of wanting to have like this special space that veterans can go, but how are they going to know? Sorry, my wife's just got home, and I've got some dogs here. So how would the veterans know or get the information that they have this availability to go to IHOP to get the breakfast? How are we getting the word out to the ones that are homeless? How are we getting the word out to the ones that are on the street? Because those are the ones that are in need of it the most, that are really disconnected from community, from news, from these different organizations.
Anthony, do you have an idea? I do.
That wasn't really discussed. That's one of the reasons and the things that if this is going to be, I guess you could say a franchise of Project DieHard, we would want that continuity with them, obviously, as being the umbrella mother organization. So we would have to see how they do that. Do they hand out flyers? Do they advertise on the radio? Do they send some people right into the homeless encampments? Do they put up flyers at the VA? What kind of different avenues do they use to get the word out there? I know, for example, my church that I attend here in Tucson regularly once a week does a first responders and veterans breakfast at our church. So we could get the word out there to other veterans as well and just say, hey, this is another avenue and another network for you to be able to use. So as soon as I find out exactly what those answers are, that's a really good point, Scott. I'm taking notes for when the next time we meet with Project DieHard. I also like the care bag idea, just to kind of throw it out there for them to see how they feel about that. I'm really big into one of the things that we discussed with David from Project DieHard this morning was exercising those demons of PTSD and anxiety and nightmares and traumatic brain injuries and the effects that that have on veterans. And you're 100% right, Scott. The majority of homeless veterans suffer with a combination, multiples, or at least one of those demons, if you would. That's just causing them not to be able to have the networking that they need to get to a healthy place. And so if we can provide that, that'd be great.
And I think you answered the question for me a little bit. At least one avenue would be organizations like the Lions Club that are going into the homeless shelters. And then the people who are in the homeless shelters are also going to be associating at some point, most likely, with other people that are on the street. So I think word of mouth is probably pretty powerful in this case, as well as, like Anthony was saying, flyers and so forth that they might have found useful. Do you see that as a benefit, Scott, being able to talk to?
Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest eye opener for me, throughout this process that I've learned was, like you said, a lot of them are dealing with these demons, and a lot of the other nonprofits and things that are out there, they'll offer services, but let's just say they have drug abuse or they have alcoholism or whatever. They want them to clean up before they can, get these things. And obviously that's a goal we all want for them. But a lot of times they don't want to change their habits. They don't want to change their ways. So, they almost feel more at home on the street and just being out on their own than they would asking for services or trying to receive services. Obviously it's going to be a decision for a lot of them to make, but my thing is that I think the biggest issue with is just getting the word to them. I have another gentleman that I work with. He does like a walk to the Veterans Hospital. And he was also homeless at one time. And he had, throughout his journey, like he went through like all the underpasses and, all of these places. And his goal was to get them to go with him, take this journey to the Veterans Hospital, so they could get these services. And he actually did get quite a few people to go along with him. And his name is Pastor John McLean. And he's a local advocate here in Tucson that does quite a bit of stuff. And he advocates for the homeless. He actually built, they got a property set up to where they could build like tiny homes or tiny shelters for veterans out on the street. But I often run into him at different networkings around town, and I can make the introduction to him as well. And, maybe we can start connecting some more dots.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
terrific. And Scott, I appreciate what you said. I really appreciate that, because that got me thinking, and I agree with you. For a homeless, being a veteran, I know 100% what you're saying is true, that most of the programs that are out there, whether it's a nonprofit program, whether it's a program through some kind of government agency, 95% of them require you to be sober and not on a substance when you come into their program. But what you got me thinking about, Scott, is who's there to bridge that gap between addiction and sobriety. There's got to be somebody there to bridge that gap. You can't just, right, you give a man a fish, you fed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, you fed him for a lifetime. So what
That's
are we
right.
doing to feed these veterans for a lifetime? Are we just throwing them a life raft and then cutting the rope, or what are we doing here? And I think that that's a really good point that has really spoken to me just in this podcast since you said that. And if that can be something that we can help do, get these veterans from a place of recognizing their problem, because admission being the first step to recovery, and then getting them to begin the steps to get cleaned up so that they can get into a transitional program that will help them, that would be phenomenal.
Right. And I think largely, a lot of times whenever they go to these groups, or organizations, the people who are helping them are not, they're not veterans. They're not former, they're not former veterans. They're not former addicts. They're not former homeless people. They're, mostly professionals in a lot of cases. And I think again, there's the other gap between this, is that we need more of our veterans who have successful lives, but have been in the same ruts, in the same gutters, to help facilitate that middle ground. I think it's real important, and I think it's in the military you get that that real camaraderie,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And I think what I believe is that this is what they're lacking. They're missing that camaraderie. They're missing that brotherhood. They're missing that guy that says, "Come on, buddy, we're not going to leave you behind. We're going to get you the help that you need. We're here to support you. I'm going to eat with you. I'm going to sweat with you. I'm going to go through this with you." And I think we'd have more success if we had more of our military personnel and more of the people that have been in the same situations, have been to war or have been in the military, have had previous, everybody's got problems. Everybody's got a little PTSD. If you live in this world, you got PTSD, whether you've served in the service or not. I think the world that we live in now, I think everybody's looking for camaraderie. Everybody's looking for a community. Nobody knows who to trust anymore. Nobody knows what to believe, who's telling the truth or who's trying to stab you in the back.
Right.
And, this is, I don't know, a lot of people say it starts from the top and works its way down. No, I don't believe that. I think it starts at the bottom and works its way to the top, because nobody at the top that's fell to the bottom has had it easy making their way back up, nor has that person that started at the bottom and made their way to the top. But every step that they got a little reward. They got a little more confidence to drive to that next step. And I think, we gotta, if we're gonna save these veterans and we're gonna save these people, we got to get to where they are. We gotta accept them where they are at. And like I said, with the brotherhood that they're missing, it's important for the sobriety. It's important for the recovery, everything.
And I agree with you completely. There's an interesting story in scripture, and I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. It's just what came to mind. And that is of when Jesus called his 12 disciples, 3 of them were in a boat. And one of the things that the Gospels point out in the harmony of the Gospels in the New Testament is that Jesus didn't call them out of the boat. He didn't tell them to go to the other shore. He went and got in the boat with them. In other words, he met them where they were. He didn't require a big transformation. He didn't require them to stop doing something. He said, no, I'm coming down and I'm getting in your boat with you. And that's how he made those 3 disciples his disciples. And I think that that's important, Scott. I agree with you. It's a battle buddy program. The gap between addiction and sobriety is a war in and of itself. They're fighting another type of war, and they need a battle buddy that's going to have their back during that war.
Yep. That's exactly it.
And
That's
I
exactly
know
it.
that, yeah, I know that at Project DieHard, as far as when they have the facilities, that they are not going to allow alcohol and drugs too, of course, in the facility, but just having the support and maybe having somebody that can direct them to, like in Tucson, it might be Gospel Rescue Mission, or a similar situation, similar program, having somebody to be able to advise them, and somebody that they've been having breakfast with on a monthly basis for a period of time, that makes them trust in those people that are giving them advice more.
Well, and I've had a few different veterans programs at our ranch over the years. We actually did pre-COVID. We were doing actually equine therapy, but COVID killed those programs, because obviously when COVID happened, a lot of those therapies went to telemed, right? So pretty much a lot of those group services went away as well because of social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, that behavioral health really hasn't recovered from COVID. It's been forever changed, the scope. But over the years, some of the things that I've really kind of just overseen, the therapy part of it, the animal interaction part of it. I can honestly tell you, I think my veterans that have come through have got more out of the animal interaction part of it, where they come in, they help me with the ranch, they help feed and care for the animals. They learn how to handle the horses. They learn how to do these things. And then some of the things that we've actually done is we will take some of these animals, once the veterans have, some skills with them, take them out and do like a community service visit at the base or another veterans program, the VA hospital. And I've seen more recovery from just the basic stuff
Yep.
of just the animal interactions than I have through the therapeutics, honestly. Because the therapeutics have more of a medical outlook on a lot of these things. And a lot of these veterans, they need to just get back to a peaceful place and a peaceful state of mind. And sometimes it's just as simple as scooping horse poop and cleaning up a horse stall or brushing a horse that
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world. And it keeps them coming back. And every time that they come back through the door, we try to, we try to gently persuade a little bit more, try to encourage,
Yeah.
do whatever we can to help with each and every individual, because they're not all the same.
Have you put a spy inside my heart? Because you're like speaking my heart right now. Um, and I'd love nothing more than to network with you on this. That'd be phenomenal.
Well, you can always, I don't know where you're at, but
I'm in
I'm in.
Tucson.
Oh,
Rio
you're in
Ranch.
Tucson. Well,
Yeah, Rio Ranch. Yeah.
then you need to come by and have a tour. I'll walk you around the ranch, and you can certainly tag along with me to any of these things. So,
Okay, well, I can't walk much because of my disabilities, but I can walk a little bit.
well, I got a horse. Do you know how to ride?
Let's do it. You're speaking my language, man. Like I said, it's like you put a little mini Chinese spy inside my heart or something. Like,
Well, I come from a military family. My nephew, Special Forces, did 2 tours in Afghanistan and a tour in Iraq. Came back with some serious PTSD. Thought about taking his life a couple times. Had some problems with coming back into society. Got a divorce. He's got a new wife now. He's a knife builder, so
oh, cool.
he builds knives out of his garage. It's called DSK Tactical, and he's doing very, very well now. But I can tell you, for the first 2 or 3 years when he got out, man, I'll tell you. The only thing that saved him was his brothers, his camaraderie.
I agree. That transition, and that's another thing we discussed today, that transition between military life and transition life can be one of the most difficult for any soldier, but especially those that have been in any type of combat theater. That
Yep.
is just because it's kind of a brotherhood, right? Though a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Those that have gone through what you've gone through, and if there's not somebody in your immediate network that understands the struggles, it can be very, very difficult to make that transition. I worked in federal law enforcement for a decade. After I got out of the military, I was still in the beginning of my career in federal law enforcement. I was still in the Arizona National Guard. I got out about a year and a half in, but once I got out, the person in charge made me the transition officer between those veterans coming out of the military and wanting to transition into law enforcement. And so the struggle you're talking about is 100% real. It's 100% real.
Yeah. So that was basically the eye opening for me. It was, as a family member, I just felt so helpless that I couldn't give him what he needed. I couldn't, I could give him anything else, but I couldn't give him what he needed. And luckily he found it within his brotherhood, and little by little he made his way back. But man, I'll tell you, it was pretty touch and go for a couple years, for sure.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm listening to you guys, but I'm taking notes and trying to parent at the same time. So, but I'm
That's
Right.
good.
Well, we're
Hey,
going to wrap it
hey,
up shortly. I promised you 30 minutes because I know you had your kids this week and we've gone 40. So,
well, I could talk all night about this, so that's fine.
I know, but
so
your
who
kids
says
need
men
some
can't
attention.
multitask,
So,
right?
I'm not very good at it. I'm a single parent. Um, and I would like, I need to talk to your nephew. How did he find that second wife? Because I haven't found mine yet. But anyway, I'm looking.
Well, I'll tell you, the second wife, his mother and father divorced when he was probably 13, I think, 12 or 13. And the 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 new wife that he has, she happened to be the next door neighbor girl next to his mom's
Uh,
house.
yeah, yeah.
And after he got a divorce, I think they found each other on Facebook or something, and then went and dated. And I'll tell you, that was really the big change for him. I really saw, a lot of really good changes for him when he found um, another lady. She also had two girls and was divorced, so they had kind of like this little Brady Bunch. Um,
Yeah.
he had two girls and she had two girls, and so um, together they've been playing house, um, and he's building knives. They've been, it looks like they get to go vacation, they get to go play in the mountains, and they get to go do things. So I'd say life has made a 180-degree turn,
It's
and
awesome.
he's happy, he's smiling. Um,
Yes.
it's a good place. It's a good place to see him.
yeah. David, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, I mean it's great to hear other people, to know that there's solutions out there through people that have gone through the same thing as you. I was a meth addict for 10 years, alcoholic for a long time, and I consider myself continuously in recovery, and I'll fall off the wagon every once in a while. But the people around me, basically, they've never been through what I've been through, and so I understand that, and so their opinions are constantly interjected, and but I don't have I go to online mental health myself, so it's just about anybody can fall into that, and yes, mine is definitely PTSD related. I don't need to go into all that stuff, but so good to see that you guys are gearing up to make a difference, and maybe we'll do one in Colorado Springs someday.
That would be wonderful. Anthony, final word?
Um, I just think that this has been a great day between the meeting with Project DieHard this morning, being able to network with Scott. Scott, Debbie can pass along all my contact information to you if you don't mind. And just being able to do that, I really feel like this was very productive. Thank you, Deb, for facilitating this. Um, it's a long road ahead, but I think our heroes deserve this. I think that they
Oh yeah.
deserve a chance to get to a
Definitely.
place where they can be functioning members of society that they fought to preserve the freedom for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott,
I
final words?
Well, I get to live the dream because of all the sacrifices that you guys have given for this country. So, thank you for your service. And you know, my ranch is always open. Mi casa is su casa. Come check it out. I
I
think
will. I will.
bring your kids too, because
Okay.
we got something for everybody.
All right.
We
Yeah,
got
for
about
sure.
six. Yeah, we've got about 60 animals on the property. From little bunny rabbits to a full size horse. So,
Cool.
um,
Cool.
yeah, come check it out. And if you wanna get online, we've got some cool drone videos of the property. There's lots of videos on there. We got a YouTube channel, Track Ranch, so you can check out some of the other stuff that we've
Is it
done.
just TRACK?
It's TRAK, and that's the acronym for Therapeutic Ranch for Animals and Kids.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming so much. And I see Emily's been really good about putting our information underneath there. So one thing I know you can do for Project DieHard is look for them on Facebook and LinkedIn and like and share, repost with a comment that we're looking to start a breakfast for veterans in Tucson, so that they can contact the main, projectdiehard.org and let us know, and they'll let us know from Illinois, Kentucky. But thank you guys. Oh my gosh, this was so great. I think we accomplished a lot. Anthony, I think we have another cheerleader here to join our team. Maybe not join our team as much because he's got a lot to do, but at least as support.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm certainly a
And
cheerleader
David
of
too
his,
from afar. So thank you guys. Emily, thank you for keeping
Thank
this
you, Debbie.
going. And yes, we will see you next time.
Good
All
night,
right, guys.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.